basically helped me to get my undergrad in psychology because I had dropped out of college with 21 hours left. They helped me to get my master's in marketing. So I went and got my master's in marketing. They sent me to Harvard Business School. Again, as soon as my boxes were delivered somewhere at a new house, I was off traveling somewhere. There was a burn with it. There was a lot of sacrifices with it. And unfortunately, my order, as far as what was my priorities, were company, money, power, Krystal, and then all the other things.
Thriving in Tandem. It's a podcast for you, the married entrepreneur that wants to win in business and marriage at the same time.
Welcome to Thriving in Tandem.
Welcome to the Thriving in Tandem podcast. It's so great to see everyone or hear everyone. We actually, this is a special episode because we actually got a little bit of a studio audience this time, right? We're working in collaboration with the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce. We've been doing we started these monthly calls for married business owners. So if you want to join us, I wasn't meant to be a commercial, but I guess it is now. Meant to join us. The links are going to on the show notes. Join us. It's free for chamber members. A small fee for if not. But again, just join the chamber, and then you don't have to pay the fee because it's all free for chamber members. But anyways, in these monthly calls, what we're doing is part of it is we're interviewing business leaders and talking about a little bit of their challenges of building a business and running a business while maintaining and trying to grow a healthy marriage and a family. And what are some of the pitfalls and challenges, but then also what are things that they've overcome and what are some lessons learned that we can learn, right? So today, honey.
I'm well excited.
I know, you've been saying that for a while. We have speaking of the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce, we have the president of the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce, Krystal Parker. Krystal is just she's a fire starter. She was working in the oil and gas industry for many years, climbed up the corporate ladder just from almost like, wasn't quite the mailroom, but almost as I'm looking at her as a resume, it was almost like the mailroom, all the way to vice president. And it's a male dominated industry. So of course she's got to put on her pants and she's got to charge and take charge, be large and in charge. Anyways, and now she's heading up the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce, which is a startup in its own right? So there's a lot going on there. And so we want to dive into how does she do it all?
Yeah.
And she's got a daughter that's going off to college and she's relatively newly married, all that stuff. Anyways, probably giving away more than I should right now. But anyways, let's welcome Krystal Parker to the show. Krystal, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Most people don't use fire and oil and gas in the same sentence, so I made it through that. But then, I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much.
All right, so let's dive right in. Especially, we've got some people in our studio audience that are a part of the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce, and not everyone's heard your story. So I'm sure people are waiting because all we see is the leader, the one that's just leading the charge for the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce, planning, helping facilitate planning Christian chambers all across the country. Just great vision and a lot of work, and just we're so admire what you're doing. But let's.
Because it looks so easy. You're like so successful. Like everything you touch turns to gold. And, your daughter turned out fabulous. And
yeah, so give us a peek. Let's not just pull back the curtain, but go back in time a little bit, right? When you're in the oil and gas industry and you're climbing the corporate ladder, you're successful, you're checking out all the professional boxes, and then you're married, you have a young kid. What was going on? What were some of the challenges there?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for me was me to be able to do what I was able to do in that oil and gas industry. I actually started stocking shelves in a truck parts store, which I think is a little below the mailroom, but I don't know in a hierarchy where that falls. Mailroom was actually exempt employee. I was not. And was able to just climb up that corporate ladder step by step, piece by piece. A lot of moves were involved in that. People would ask me if I was in the military because I was always willing. The joke in my family was as soon as I put paint on the walls, I was selling my house to move. And it just went like that. for a number of years. There was this real focus on my career and climbing that corporate ladder. And it was laser focus. And so I couldn't be too bothered by all the other things. I just had one mission in mind. And then I got a taste of it: power, money, success. And I wanted more. It was almost an insatiable feeling and desire to grow. And candidly, in a corporate environment like that, publicly traded Fortune 200 company, it was rewarded to really be you cut open, you bleed the color of that logo. I bled the blue, the one oak blue, and I sacrificed everything for it. I said yes, I said when, I said how. I was a great corporate person, and they basically helped me to get my undergrad in psychology because I had dropped out of college with 21 hours left. They helped me to get my master's in marketing, and I chose marketing at the time because I was focused on the distribution side of the company. And the distribution for such a long time thought they were a monopoly and couldn't be overtaken. But there was this little thing called electricity that could do what gas did at the burner tip. So I went and got my master's in marketing. They sent me to Harvard Business School. Again, as soon as my boxes were delivered somewhere at a new house, I was off traveling somewhere. I had 52 weeks, 52 weeks in a year, 52 weeks in the air. And that was my life. And there was a burn with it. There was a lot of sacrifices with it. And unfortunately, my order, as far as what was my priorities, were company, money, power, Krystal, and then all the other things.
So what was going on at home during all this time when you're just killing it in business, but what's going on at home?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, in fairness for me, I was a Sunday Christian, so I warmed a seat. I warmed up that pew seat on Sunday for an hour and thought that I was doing all the good American Pie things for a Christian. And really, I did it for my daughter because I didn't think I needed it. I had already the 10-year perfect attendance award when I was a kid, so I knew about the Bible and I wanted her to know that stuff too. That's how I saw it at the time. I really don't know what was going on at home because the guilt was erased because I felt like, well, I'm leaving her with her dad. And so she's with somebody in the family and everything is fine. My husband was a stay-at-home dad. And so he, kept things turning at home. And so I felt like I was recused of any responsibility at the house. My role was to put on my pants, as you said, go to work, bring home the paycheck, build a bigger house and do these very important things like have these fancy dinners and do all this really important stuff. And that was my role in the home. And so I neglected and negated everything else, responsibility wise for that. And what was going on truly was my marriage was falling apart. I was a terrible mother, and all of the stuff at home was crumbling. But when you have enough power and money to keep it running together and keep things going, you can keep the wick burnt for a little bit longer before it all blows up.
Yeah, and that's just I think a powerful lesson. I think sometimes we rationalize
Mm,
what we're doing for the sake of the family, that hey, everything's home, and your husband's there, or like, if it's reversed role, right, the husband's working, the wife's at home, stay-at-home mom, and taking care of the family. So as long as someone's at home with the kids, then the rationalization is I can just go do it over here and not work as home's taken care of. But
mhm.
that's not necessarily the case, right? And so kind of speak to that a little bit, because this is common, not just even if you're a Christian, non-Christian, that's the same rationalization I hear all the time. Oh, well, we got, mom's at home or dad's at home or whatever, right? And we kind of release ourselves from that kind of responsibility of taking care of home.
hmm Yeah, because I think it's a justification and it's almost a release of any guilt. You just don't feel because you're like, well, they're with their dad or they're with their grandma, or, even if it's a nanny. I mean, in El Paso, the culture in El Paso, that's when I became an officer, was when I was in El Paso. And the El Paso culture, which I loved, was really a genuine family oriented community, which was really beautiful. But it was not uncommon for people to have multiple nannies. A lot of the people I ran with in my circles had week nannies, weekend nannies, and evening nannies. And so it was just, everybody's focus that was at least in my circle was really on their career, their growth, and their title and status. And unfortunately, you what you put your time into and what you focus on will grow, and what you don't will not. And I'm not saying that you can't have a successful career and you can't be extremely successful in business and have one or the other. I think that it's really important that you are able to find that balance and get your priorities right. But my addiction, I open my podcast with, I used to worship work. Now I use my work as worship. My addiction was work. My addiction was power. My addiction was money. And it was insatiable. And the more I got, the more I wanted. And it really did become truly a mini G God to me. And that was what I was serving.
Yeah.
So did you realize what kind of shape your marriage and family life was at home? Or did you didn't even think about it? You just kept on going, I've got work to do, and you guys take care of everything.
Yeah, Kaylee, I should have, but I just didn't. And I was in Austin. I got a call and I had to do a really quick flight out to get home and in my marriage immediately. And that was the breaking point in my marriage at that very moment. And that things had just gotten so bad, I just didn't even realize it. And so it was at that point, I didn't become a single mom, I became a solo parent. And a solo parent is one that is responsible for everything. My family was 9.5 hours away. Here I am with this young girl, 2.5, three, maybe 3.5. And I didn't even know where she went to dance. I didn't know what time it was. I literally went from a mother's perspective, it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because it was at that moment I got to actually become a mom to my daughter and really just fall in love with her. And because it forced me to really redirect, change everything. And there were many nights, and my ex-husband is a chef. And there were many nights that she and I would sit at the bar and we'd open a can of tuna and we'd have a bowl of cereal. Like, I was a mess. I was an absolute mess. But um, it was at that time that I decided, like, I don't want a morning nanny, evening nanny, weekend nanny. I would have somebody come at 4 in the morning so I could go to the gym and get around, but I wanted to be responsible to take her to school, pick her up. And I just really completely reconstructed my whole schedule. And what was really neat about that, what I saw was the fruit of that, was it really forced me to allow my directors. I was running in El Paso, I was running anywhere from 350 to 400 employees and contractors. And so I had a really great team of directors around me. And what it forced me to do was really to allow them to lead and to start to step up. I took my foot off the gas in terms of feeling like I had to be the driver. I stepped back to really focus on home. They rose up, they grew as leaders, they grew as a team. They were solving problems independently without having to include me in all of it. And I got to see that, oh, you weren't really as important as you thought you were. Certainly some things fell through the cracks and that kind of stuff, but the most important thing was making sure that my daughter was okay and that I could be that mom for her. And the rest was just incredible lessons after that in terms of reprioritizing things.
That's really good. That's a powerful lesson and some just good practical tips. I think, you know, releasing control, delegating more, raising up people. I think
Hmm.
a lot of, especially like a lot of the business owners we work with, they're founders and they're younger, so they're just growing it, and it's very hard to release control. And when you really when you control everything, that basically self limits your growth. Number one in the business.
Hmm.
Then of course now you're doing everything, which means it's just stealing time away from home.
Well, and it's
Right.
hard on the employees too, because you're micromanaging and you're not like turning anything over to them to problem solve, because that makes them feel good, like they feel valued, like, oh, I'm adding something here.
Yeah, they grew
That's
as a result of it for sure.
So now you're relatively newly married and your daughter's going off to college and all that. But, so how do you, and you're in a startup mode, right, for the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
And I know because we have conversations. So we know this is, like any startup, right? Whether it's business or ministry, nonprofit, whatever. I mean, there's a lot going on. And so how do you, like, especially you and Hector now, maintain not just that balance, but how do you thrive in tandem? How do you make sure, it's easy. You're gonna, there's definitely a lot of busy times, especially as you're getting ready for the expo and all that. I mean, you're gonna be busy, but how do you maintain that connection with each other? And then even
even with your
looking forward, I
daughter.
don't know, yeah, your daughter's gonna be leaving. So how do you have you had that conversation? How do you how do you maintain staying connected while you're doing this thing called the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce?
Mhm. Yeah, I think for us, what works the best for Hector and myself is really find our moments. He's a volleyball coach, and so he works evenings, he travels for a club, and so he works odd times. We have mornings together, and so I control my calendar and make sure that those days that we are able to have breakfast or take a walk together, that's some of our best times. We just love that. So it's a little reverse of what the world would say is like, oh, you do that in the evenings. No, we do it ours in the morning. As far as Giovanna, I mean, many of you know that when she calls me, it sounds like a bullhorn is coming through my phone, and that's intentional. And it doesn't matter. I mean, typically we communicate that, hey, I'm in a podcast or whatever, text only. But I needed her to know after what she went through with me in corporate that she was the most important thing in terms of she's no longer secondary. And so that's just a simple thing that she knows when she calls mom's going to answer the phone because she's important to me. And things like work and meetings, while they are important, um, they are not the most important. And including our relationship with the Lord. I mean, the Lord is God over our home. Prayer is baked into everything that we do. We talk about the Lord, we talk about his goodness. And that's a big change in terms of things that used to be important in our home before. It is truly about what is the Lord doing and how can we be a house that serves the Lord, be a light for Christ in the world. Something that I realized that was really important to me that's shifted in this season is I don't do ministry in my home, meaning my family is my ministry. I love my family. We are together. We're a unit, but we keep our home sacred. That is our place. That is our safe place. And it is a place where we are united and we come together. It's a place of peace and rest, and we do ministry outside of the house. And so that's just what works for us. But that's also really important for us to get that recharge in the place that we're able to go out into the world. And so that's a little bit of a shift for us.
Yeah, that's no, that's important. It's basically what you're saying is boundaries. We
Mhm.
gotta have some boundaries so we know the difference between work and home. Because especially if you're doing stuff in home, things get really blurred, right? If you're inviting clients in or a potential member in or the board in or whatever, right? But we have to make sure I'll do those things, but we're gonna do it outside, right? And I think that's
Mhm.
important. And for some people, like for us, our office is at home, so that we have to make sure. So for us. Um, I make sure like my phone stays in the office.
Mhm.
So
Smart.
so our walk before dinner with the dog, that's the transition moment, and then everything stays in the office. And then
And we will, as we're walking, we'll say, "How was your day?" And we'll talk about that stuff. So, by the time we get back from our walk, we're done with work stuff.
So
Now we're
good.
able to transition into other things.
yeah, I learned that
Yeah.
from we interviewed Clyde Christensen. He was a quarterback coach for Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and
Mhm.
he coached Tom Brady at the time too. And so, we asked him like, okay, you're busy all the time. I mean, NFL coach, college coach, whatever, you're busy. And like, how do you do that? Right. And then so he talked about the transition moment. And so that gave us that idea. I was like, oh, that's a good idea.
Mhm.
He
It's like,
pulls over off the side of the road before he gets to the house and intentionally puts on a different hat.
Oh, I love that.
He
Yeah,
prays,
good.
he prays, he calms down because he knows once he gets there, the kids want him.
Mhm.
He wants to make sure he's available, not going, oh,
Present.
I'm tired and
Or that
later, right?
driver mode, like, okay, that
Mhm.
personality, like we got
So
to get things
good.
done, and
Yeah,
you
so I
know.
think
I
those
think that's
transitions.
so good. And I would say this too, and this is something I've learned, unfortunately, the hard way, is also choosing somebody in your life that's unequally yoked and really having a line mission of a Christ center in our home. I unfortunately had that second marriage before I found my sweetheart. And you get what you give. You are, you attract who you are. And when I married on my second time, I was not a healthy, well person yet. I was on a journey and a path, and I attracted that. And I was with somebody that, as I found the Lord and really surrendered my life to Christ, and not just head knowledge, but heart knowledge, I was doing ministry work out of my home with my spouse, with his, children, and that was a really hard place to be in, and it wasn't the right place. So that's important for me too, is that equally yoked piece as far as a spouse and friends and people that are part of your core. I think that's really important.
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely. Um,
we totally agree.
yeah. And so, what any any parting words of wisdom from Krystal Parker as things as lessons learned from previous marriage or current marriage? Just how do we make sure we stay thriving in tandem as we're building our own organizations and our own ministries, our own business, and uh, yeah, any last words?
Yeah, I had a mentor tell me this once. She said, sometimes home needs you more than work, and sometimes work needs you more than home. I think if anybody thinks there's this perfect utopia balance that's going to happen and it's all going to be roses, sunshines, and rainbows, and you're going to have exactly at 7:01, I'm in the office, and at 5:02, I'm out, like, and you're an entrepreneur. I mean, maybe if you're, clocking in employee and whatever, but as far as entrepreneurs and business owners, it's good to have boundaries, but also there's times, like for example, launching the Expo 2024, SWC 2024. I'm walking with my husband on Monday after it's all over. I say, well, sweetheart, what did I miss? And he looks at me and says, 6 months. And he said that lovingly. And I know he meant it too, but there was a lot of stuff going on. And I think that the expo and the work that I was doing there really needed me more at that time than home. And just being able to be wise of that, because it's not going to be a perfect balance. It's in tandem, right? A bike is one pedal after the next, and sometimes you're going to go high and low and have more time at home than you do away, and you'll be able to discern that. And I think the best way to discern that is to have a focus on Christ, to have a prayer life, to truly spend time with the Lord, with the Holy Spirit. That was something I didn't have in my early career. Was I didn't have prayer time with the Lord. I didn't have that introspection and introspective time with God and Christ. And so I had no clue that my home was getting ready to be in complete chaos.
Mm.
I had no clue, because I was that disconnected and that absorbed, self-absorbed. And so if you really have your eye focused on Christ, you have alignment and you're equally yoked, you really put God at the center of your home. Spend some time with yourself. Don't lose that, because that's really important in serving business, serving family, and recognize it might get a little out of balance, but truly, if you have your ear attuned to the Spirit and you spend time talking with your kids and your spouse, then everything's going to be okay in the end. It's not going to be perfect, trust. There's going to be days, there's going to be weeks where you're on your knees, crying out But at the end of the day, it's a long journey. It's not a short game. And I think that's the other thing. People go, I'm having a bad patch. I'm having a rough moment. I'm just going to end it all right now. And it's like, that's playing the short game. And listen, this is from somebody who's been divorced twice. And I don't want to be divorced again because it's hard. It's hard on your family. It's hard on your life. It's hard on your pocketbook. It's hard on everything around you. And to truly be able to say, this is a long game. Let's get through this patch. Let's work through it and really be able to say at that moment, home needs me more than work. And just like what happened with me in the oil and gas, I found that my team rose. I got to just develop the greatest love story with this beautiful child and truly changed my life. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love how you took a year off in between the conferences. You're
Mhm.
like, okay, I need to reevaluate things. I need to see where I'm at, spend some time with my family. And yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it really boils down to the intention behind everything, right? And not just run, run, run without realizing. And even in these busy stretches, what you shared some earlier is still find that those moments
Hmm.
with your husband, with your daughter, because as long as we have those intentional moments, right, that's what keeps us connected. But when
Yeah.
you're just running without pausing, so like for us, same thing. We just, when we're just syncing calendars, we just know the busy stretches. But even in the midst of a busy stretch, how do we make sure we stay connected? And it doesn't take a lot of time. I think that's what the
Mhm.
misunderstanding. People think that it takes a lot of time to invest in our relationship. I said, no, it just takes intention, and it's the quality of time. It's not the amount of time, right?
Being
And
present.
so we can
Good.
handle these busy stretches when we are still intentional about our family, our husband, our wife, and our kids. So, Krystal, thank you so much for being a returning guest. I mean,
Yes,
this
thank
is
you, Kristen.
amazing. So, for you listening, thank you. Share this episode with other married entrepreneurs who need to hear this. And until next week, God bless you. Thank you for listening to the Thriving in Tandem podcast. Please visit our website, marriedentrepreneur.co, for a variety of free resources to help your marriage and business succeed.
And feel free to leave us a review and share this episode with another married entrepreneur. That would mean so much to us.
See you next week.